The Dreamer in the City of Angels. Los Angeles, 1946. A city of promise draped in palm trees and neon lights, where dreams bloomed and withered under the same sun. Among the thousands drawn to its glittering sidewalks was a young woman from Massachusetts, 22-year-old Elizabeth Short. She arrived with nothing but a suitcase, a collection of photographs, and the belief that Hollywood had room for one more star. With jet black hair, porcelain skin, and an affinity for dramatic black dress, when she arrived in Los Angeles, she stepped into a paradox. The city glittered on the surface, but darkness pooled in its alleys. Beneath the marquee lights were shadows of predators, hustlers, and broken dreams. For women like Elizabeth, beauty was a double-edged sword, an asset in the pursuit of fame, but a magnet for danger. Still, she held on to hope. She posed for portraits, handed out resumes, clung to charm. And the city, for a time, seemed to smile back. But smiles in Hollywood are often rehearsed. Offers were vague, promises were empty, and the line between opportunity and exploitation grew thinner by the day. In her final days, Elizabeth told a friend she had a meeting lined up, something important. She dressed carefully that morning, black gloves, tailored skirt, her signature curls set in place. Then, she vanished into the blur of Los Angeles. No one could have predicted what would come next. But in hindsight, the signs were there, in the borrowed rooms, the nervous glances, the silences between conversations. Elizabeth Short wasn't just chasing a dream. She was running from something, or someone. And within a week, the city that once held her dreams would become her grave. January 9, 1947. The Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles bustled with uniformed bellhops, polished marble, and endless whispers. Among the crowd sat Elizabeth Short, calm, composed, waiting. She told the hotel staff she was meeting someone, but no one ever saw her leave. That would be the last confirmed sighting of her alive. For days, she was invisible, to friends, to strangers, to a city that had briefly taken notice of her. Calls went unanswered. Addresses led nowhere. Yet in Los Angeles, people vanished often, and few questions were asked. Until someone looked. 6 days later, on the cold morning of January 15th, a housewife named Betty Berzinger walked with her daughter along Norton Avenue in Leimert Park, a quiet, middle-class neighborhood where bad things didn't happen. As they neared a vacant lot, Betty froze. Just beyond the sidewalk, near the curb, she spotted what she thought was a broken mannequin, grotesquely pale and eerily posed. It wasn't a mannequin. The body was severed cleanly at the waist, drained entirely of blood. Both halves lay neatly arranged in the grass, arms raised overhead, legs spread apart in a theatrical display that bordered on ritual. The skin was scrubbed spotless. A grotesque gash extended from each corner of the mouth to the ears, a chilling, permanent smile carved with precision. But the horror didn't end there. Her thighs and breasts were mutilated, her intestines tucked beneath her torso. Rope marks etched into her wrists and ankles told of bondage. There was no blood at the scene, suggesting she had been killed elsewhere, cleaned, and deliberately displayed. News of the discovery erupted across headlines within hours. The press dubbed her the Black Dahlia, emphasizing her beauty, mystery, and brutal death. Soon, Elizabeth became a national obsession, not as a victim, but as a character in a noir fantasy of Hollywood gone wrong. Detectives began their investigation under a storm of flashbulbs and media interference. They scoured crime scenes, questioned acquaintances, traced Elizabeth's movements, but the trail was thin, fading by the hour. The crime's surgical precision hinted at medical knowledge. The mutilations, the presentation, all suggested deep rage or sadistic pleasure. Who killed her? And why? Those questions quickly became more complex than anyone imagined. The press speculated wildly: a jealous lover, a deranged fan, a predator lurking in plain sight. And the public? They couldn't look away. But the only certainty was this: Elizabeth Short was no longer just a missing girl. She had become a symbol of innocence lost, of violence beneath glamour, of how quickly beauty can be destroyed in the wrong hands. And as police began to follow the faint, bloody footprints through Los Angeles, it became clear they were chasing a ghost in a city built on illusions. The case was unraveling in public view. Press leaks, internal rivalry, and lack of forensic technology crippled progress. Theories blossomed like weeds. Some claimed she was killed by a jilted lover, others believed it was a ritual murder or a mob hit. The facts, few and far between, drowned beneath a rising tide of speculation. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's image morphed under the media's gaze. She became the adventuress, the seductress, the mystery woman. Her life was dissected, distorted, then forgotten, leaving only the violence behind. And somewhere in Los Angeles, her killer walked free, perhaps watching the spectacle unfold from the shadows, amused, untouched. The case that began with a body was now tangled in myth. And as the investigation stumbled towards silence, one truth remained: the closer they looked, the darker the picture became. The case was unraveling in public view. Press leaks, internal rivalry, and lack of forensic technology crippled progress. Theories blossomed like weeds. Some claimed she was killed by a jilted lover, others believed it was a ritual murder or a mob hit. The facts, few and far between, drowned beneath a rising tide of speculation. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's image morphed under the media's gaze. She became the adventuress, the seductress, the mystery woman. Her life was dissected, distorted, then forgotten, leaving only the violence behind. And somewhere in Los Angeles, her killer walked free, perhaps watching the spectacle unfold from the shadows, amused, untouched. The case that began with a body was now tangled in myth. And as the investigation stumbled towards silence, one truth remained: the closer they looked, the darker the picture became. Legacy of a lost girl. Decades have passed since the day Elizabeth Short's mutilated body was found, but her story has never truly been buried. It lingers, in books, in films, in whispers through the streets of Los Angeles. Though her killer was never caught, the Black Dahlia became immortal, not through justice, but through legend. In truth, Elizabeth wasn't a femme fatale, nor a Hollywood star. She was a young woman from Medford, Massachusetts, who loved movies, dreamed of acting, and sought kindness in a city that often offered cruelty. Yet history transformed her, from a victim into a myth, her humanity lost in sensational headlines and smoky noir retellings. The failure to solve her murder became a permanent stain on the Los Angeles Police Department. Over the years, numerous cold case detectives revisited the evidence, trying to make sense of what little remained. But photographs faded, memories died, and the trail, long cold, never warmed again. Still, theories never ceased. Steve Hodel, convinced of his father's guilt, spent decades gathering circumstantial evidence, photographs, medical knowledge, and damning tape recordings. His books ignited debate, casting a long, uncomfortable shadow over Dr. George Hodel's life and legacy. Others dismissed him, calling the theory speculative, even obsessive. But no definitive answer followed. In 2003, the Black Dahlia case was officially closed, not because it was solved, but because there was nowhere else to look. Yet the cultural fascination only grew. Movies like The Black Dahlia, 2006, dramatized the case. Novels, podcasts, documentaries, and online sleuth communities kept her name alive, dissecting every detail, every rumor. But in this noise, Elizabeth the person often vanished, eclipsed by Elizabeth the mystery. She never had the chance to grow older, to leave Hollywood behind, to reinvent herself. She became frozen in time, remembered not for what she did, but for how she died. And so, we're left with a question, not just who killed Elizabeth Short, but why her story endures. Maybe it's the brutality, the silence, the unresolved nature of her death. Or maybe it's because we see in her something tragically universal, the pursuit of dreams in a world that too often preys on the dreamers. Her case is more than a crime scene. It's a reflection of a darker truth, that behind the glamour of fame and city lights lies a shadowy underside, where justice is not guaranteed, and innocence is no protection. Elizabeth Short wanted to be remembered. She just never imagined it would be like this. And so, Her ghost walks with us, through pages, through screens, through endless speculation, not asking for fame or myth, but something far more elusive: the truth.